I mean, I average 200 cold calls a day. So
Unbelievable.
That's average. Sometimes I hit 300.
Sometimes
I
hit 100 because you're talking longer.
Yeah, but anywhere between 200 to 300 cold calls a day. Peak 15 is the name of Mount Everest before it was called Mount Everest. So prior to 1864, I believe.
I want people to think that over in Saudi Arabia, and you can second this, those sheiks over there are making $1 billion a day printing money from oil. There is so much money in this world. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show, your go-to for real estate, business, health, and family insight. I'm Chris Salerno, CEO of QC Capital. Each episode, we explore the latest trends and expert advice from industry leaders. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or seeking balance, this show provides an inspiration you need. Join us and elevate your game on the Chris Salerno Show. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show. I am your host, Chris Salerno. Very excited to have my friend John on. We've known each other for how long? What? 5 years.
5 years.
You're going,
years.
Ever since I started QC Capital, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah.
You look good as always.
Yeah, thank you.
Always crushing it. I mean,
it.
you are always doing crazy activities like mountain biking and things like that, staying active, which we'll dive into. You know, a big part about our show is health as well, family, business, and real estate, which you cover it all. Which I'm excited to talk about, everything. So founder and managing partner of Peak 15 Capital. Let's start, from the very beginning because you have a very interesting story. You weren't born in America. So let's start from the very beginning until where you are today. Let's give everyone a little background about that.
Wow. We're going back that far.
Oh, yeah, we're going back. No filters. And I will be interrupting you throughout this because I want to know more.
That's fine. Beginning, man, yeah, I was, as you indicated, my family are immigrants. I was born in Syria, and Aleppo, Syria is made famous by the recent war, unfortunately, and that have happened. I was there until almost 16 years old. I moved to the United States when I was 15 and a half years old.
So that's a good age to understand everything. Like, it's not like you were moved here when you were 4 or 5 where you really don't have a memory of it. 16's a good age to come.
No, I mean, I moved to the States when I was in 11th grade, essentially. So junior in high school.
Wow. And so your father said, hey, guys, we're moving. What was the main reason for that?
I actually wasn't really told that we were moving until after we got here.
No way.
I didn't really know we were moving.
They just said, you're going to America.
Was trying to be cautious, and we're coming to visit the United States, but I didn't know we were here for good until we got here, and they're like, yeah, we're never going back. So.
And what went through your mind at 16 years old? Like, hey, we're not going back.
Disappointment, fear, I guess, nervousness,
not knowing what's coming,
not knowing what this country's about, and how I'm gonna kind of navigate my way through learning a language, learning English,
Because you spoke Arabic, right? Yeah, and so you spoke Arabic, no English, and then coming over here, you're like, holy cow, this is different.
Yeah. I knew like cuss words in English. I knew like hi,
as everyone,
bye, how are you? Like
the
that.
basics.
The basics. Yeah. Hi, bye, how are you? That kind of stuff. Thank you. Like, but yeah, I did not know English. I knew French and Arabic, and when I moved here, I had to learn English from scratch. Pretty much went to just down the road at CPCC. It was my first ESL course in English was down in CPCC. So.
Unbelievable. So how did you guys settle on Charlotte when you came over here? Because not many people say, hey, I'm coming to the United States to visit Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's like, look, man, immigrants always follow each other. It's we had a great uncle that was here that had settled in the area, and that's the reason my dad picked the area to send my
be close to family.
To be close to family. That's where he sent my older brother here first, and then he sent my other brother here, and then my sister came to. They all came to study. My father sent them all to study because he knew kind of the crap that's coming down the line with in Syria. He saw the writing on the wall, and he's like, that's not going to be a future for us in this country.
So
he's talking about Syria.
So he took the risk to say he wanted a better avenue, a better journey for his kids, his family, and he says, hey, we're going to visit United States, and then when you landed, it says, hey, we're staying. And he took those risks to make sure that you guys have a better journey throughout life.
Well, he took a lot more than just risk. I mean, he left a lot behind. He left, financial whereabouts. He left land. He left property.
So he had real estate businesses, and he just said, "Hey,
I'm leaving.
Really?
I'll figure it out. Or if I can't figure it out, then that's just the cost of providing a better life for my family."
Wow.
much. So
That type of mentality is, I don't think it's very rare, number one, but I think in today's age, especially with this younger generation, it's so hard to come by that type of mentality, to really say, hey, I'm going to do it, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to work very hard and get it done at the end of the day.
yeah, leave it all on the line and just say, I'm just going to make it happen. And you're absolutely right. That's definitely very, very uncommon in this
Most definitely
in this day and age.
Most definitely. So you arrive here at 16 and you jump straight into school, right? And talk to us about that process and then, going through college.
I just had to learn English initially. Like I said, I took some English as second language classes. I got enrolled in West Charlotte High School.
There you
It
go.
was my first, I had no freaking idea. We lived in the C-class apartment complex in East Charlotte.
How many people in the apartment complex?
Just three.
Just three?
Three, four, I guess. My mom, dad, and myself, and my brother.
Yeah.
And right next to Eastland Mall, the old Eastland Mall.
Oh my God!
I used to actually be able to walk to Eastland Mall from where we rented our apartment.
You got to be careful walking.
Yeah, you have to be
Eastland
careful
Mall.
back then, I guess, but I didn't know. Like, ignorant is bliss. Like, you have no idea there's no point of reference. When you have
Correct,
no
you
point
didn't-
of reference,
yeah.
you have no idea what is point of reference, what's good, what's bad, what's not.
Yeah, I love that
All I
saying.
knew is we didn't really have much. So I had to really just kind of work with what I have, and that's it. Went to CBC after that. I guess, like I said, somehow or another landed in West Charlotte
Yeah.
High School, which is, back then it was pretty rough.
I bet. Still is in certain parts.
It still is to some extent, but even back then it was,
How was coping with that? Getting dropped in a school, everyone's speaking a whole different language, and you're kind of like an outcast. You're this there.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird. It was not pleasant. Lots of teary nights. I'm not afraid to admit back then. But I had no choice. You have no choice. You have to just kind of
You have to do it.
You have to do it. You have to figure it out. I was in ESL classes for half the year, and then I told my counselor, I was like, oh, listen, I'm not learning English fast enough. I need to be in the general population. Just throw me in with general population and
That you learn quicker that way, and
You do.
that's why
Absolutely.
I dropped out of college, or for multiple reasons with the businesses I created. But if you throw someone in an environment, you're going to learn faster that way. Like, for example, if I want to know Italian, instead of listening to it, I would rather go over to Italy and spend a couple weeks there, and I bet you I'll pick it up a lot faster.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm forced to understand it, know it, and speak it.
Oh, 100%.
And so just being around all the kids speaking and things like that, you are forced to pick up with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you're around kids, and that's the thing. That's why I didn't like. I was around kids that spoke, Thai, Arabic, Vietnamese,
All different type of languages.
Except English. And I was like, listen, I'm here to learn English, so why the hell am I spending most of my time with kids that are not speaking English?
Yeah, it sounds like the traditional school system these days. It teaches you something else.
Yeah, and they're all they're broken up into their own huddles and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't. I've never been one to follow the crowd, and I've never been one to just take what everybody tells me as that's just the matter as fact. Except
Most
for
definitely.
me, I've always been the kind that, like, I don't know. I think there's a better way. Let me just figure that out. I'm like, yeah, just throw me in with other kids, regular English, regular biology, regular whatever. And that's how I learned. I learned much better and quicker and faster. And, but yeah, not without some tears, that's for sure.
No, definitely some tough times. I'm sure you've experienced that, and so throughout that, you then decided to go to college.
I didn't decide to go to college. I didn't even know how to even get into college, to be honest with you. When I was in high school, I took the SAT. I obviously bombed it because
You didn't even know.
My knowledge of English was
Because
still
they
rudimentary.
don't have that over there too.
No, they have different kinds of tests, but I did fairly well in math, as you can imagine.
Oh, you are a numbers guy.
Most foreigners do well in math, but yeah, everything else I bombed. So I took another exam. I don't know if I did any well on that, but bottom line, I decided to take a few months off. My dad's like, just work, because we really can't afford to send you to any college right now. Just work, and you got to figure out how to we got to figure out how to even afford paying for any kind of college for you.
Wow.
You know, and I didn't have like the normal experience of a kid. That's why when I like, you know, when we talk to kids these days and our own kids, like it's like you have no idea how good you have it right now.
Oh my God, they don't.
You have parents that can talk to you and have conversation about where you want to go, how you want to do it, help you plan it out, help you look at financial aid, help you look at colleges, go on college tours. Like I had none of that experience. I didn't have anything. I didn't, you know, I was talking to one of our kids went to prom recently, and I was like, even that was something that I had no idea about.
You were new to.
I didn't know what prom was. I mean,
you're not missing that much.
I know. I'm just saying, like there's so many different aspects of a society that when you move to that you don't know.
The culture's different.
The culture's different, so you really are clueless. And sometimes it's good because sometimes ignorant is bliss. Sometimes you kind of like just kind of do your thing and figure out your way. And I took a few months off. I worked. I worked for my father and brother. Actually, they had a company back then.
And what were they doing then?
They were doing like a computer distribution. Like this was back when the PC was still big as far as distributors are concerned.
Oh
distribution of like personal PCs and all that kind of stuff. Worked for them for a while, and then and somehow or another I found my way into. I met a friend of mine. He's like, "Yeah, just throw your hat into this community college called Gaston College," and yeah, I somehow got in. I don't know how the hell I got in, but they accepted me somehow or another. What
was that? What was that feeling like when you got that letter and they said?
I don't know if it was like that kind of an acceptance, like as you can imagine. It wasn't like a letter acceptance. It's like one of those things where you just go in and apply, and you're like, yeah, you can get in. Just pay $90 or something like that
for the application fee or something,
and you're in or something. Yeah. It's not. I didn't.
It's not like it was today.
The whole experience of getting into college was never the same for me. It was not. It was just something where it's like, okay, I got to take a few months off to work, and then okay, let me apply to this college here to get this community college. Okay. Oh, I got in. Okay, let me just keep going there and take some classes.
You bring up a good point, and everyone know, if you follow me, everyone knows my take on college. I'm not a fan of college unless you're going for like law or doctor or something like that. Business, I think you should really get the experience because there's a lot of people that I know even went to Harvard and they have no business sense whatsoever.
Sure.
But you bring up a good point where they create that exciting atmosphere of, oh, John, I just got accepted. Oh my God, that feeling, that dopamine through the body of, you're applying at so many colleges and then you get that acceptance letter and it's a huge, big thing. And if you look, I don't watch TV, but back in the day, all the commercials were, big parties. Oh my God, you got accepted, things like that. So they create that atmosphere. Yeah. So it's like that dopamine of wanting to go and apply and get in and go to those colleges.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, for me, I skipped a lot of those like sort of social processes or social celebrations, I guess, milestones, because they didn't really feel like they just felt like the next thing to do.
Yeah. And I love that about you. And I think we are definitely on the same page with that is that, I'm the same way is where, once you accomplish something, it's like, okay, on to the next. Like, let's go. Cool. We got it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I mean, it's just yesterday's news. Let's
go.
What's next?
It's that Kobe mindset of, okay, I won a championship. I got to start training for the next one. And that's how, your mind runs from everything I've known you for.
Yeah. That's how I've always been. And that's how I've always been. It's not, I don't know if it's just because of like, not necessarily being satisfied with the status quo. I think maybe that's part of it, but part of it is also like I have this wandering mind of like, aside from being ADD, but of what's next and what's the next challenge? What does that look like? What does that challenge look like in 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years? And let me work my way backward. How do I accomplish that? Yeah. Back then my mind wasn't as strategic as it was today, obviously, but I knew enough to get into college. I knew enough to start making my way through classes, met some great people, and eventually left that community college, got accepted into UNC College in Charlotte, and went on there to get my 4-year degree and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, look, man, life is beautiful. I mean, it's every stage is an interesting adventure. Every stage sometimes can come back to you, sometimes it doesn't, but that's okay. That's just what life is about. Right now I sit on the board of that community college.
I love that.
It's it's really kind of a.
Have you ever thought
circle.
about that? That you would ever sit on the board of the college?
Oh, back then, absolutely not. Jesus,
No.
absolutely not. Yeah, I back then, I just was lucky to just make it to the next day. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what you think about. You know,
You are the true American dream, though. You are, your family is, your father is. That's a true American dream. You know, immigrants that came over here with nothing and starting from nothing and then building Peak 15, which we'll get to, you know, here later on, but building the multiple businesses that you have to be successful and have that mindset that you have today.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the American dream.
Yeah, I mean, I again, whether it's the American dream or whatever you want to sort of whatever topic or classification you want to have under it, it's the dream. It's whatever.
It's life.
It's life.
Yeah.
It's life. You know, and life was that. Hey, you got to figure your shit out.
Yeah.
And you got to move. You got to figure out how to move on, and that's it. Like that's the bottom line. And I think that's always how my mentality's been. I'm not stuck. I never get stuck on. Okay, like that went bad, or that went sideways, or that just kind of like didn't work out that way. Or
you are playing the cards that you were dealt, and you cannot control what type of cards you were being dealt.
That's
but
right.
you have to learn how to play them.
That's
No
right.
matter what the cards you have in your hand, you have to learn how to play them because you are not controlling what you're being dealt.
That's right. That's right. You use the equipment you're given, not the equipment you wish you had.
Love
So
that.
That's it. You use the equipment that's given, and that's what you operate on. We all wish we had different.
Oh my
set of
God! Yeah,
things
we can all
that we
pray
work
and say,
on.
"Oh, what if?" But
But bottom line, you got to use what you got, not what you hope to get.
and you
or what
can't make
wish you get.
excuses. You can't, have that type of mindset of making excuses or being that victim type of mindset. Whatever you have in your toolbox, you better learn how to use it. Even if you have to combine two tools together to get whatever you need, you got to do it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and don't be afraid to take chances. That's the thing.
You have to.
You've got to. That's the biggest thing I would say is don't be afraid to take chances. Taking chances is what got me into the real estate industry. Is what really even got me where I am today. I mean, the first chance I ever took was leaving my opening in my first shop when I was in Boston with two other partners. My first structured finance shop, commercial real estate. We didn't know anything about commercial real estate. We knew about finance. We knew about structured finance. We knew about equities and debt markets and all that kind of because we all came from Morgan Stanley and that those type of firms. Big shops. Big Wall Street shops but we had an opportunity to work on a couple of projects together, and we took a shot. We hung our own shingle, and it paid off.
I love that. And before we dive more into that, because talk to us before that. You graduated college. What's next for John? You got the world at your fingertips. What's next?
Yeah, I was working for my brother for a while because I did, obviously. I didn't really. I graduated college in the '90s, and there was not a whole lot of available college back in the mid to late '90s. Back then, the job market wasn't as economically available as they are today.
Yeah.
Worked for my brother for a while, and then landed a job with a defense contractor. Moved around with them a bunch, lived in all over the place. Even with my brother, I lived in different places. I lived in Seattle, Washington. I lived in LA. I moved back to lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. Did a stint in DC when I was
everywhere.
So all over the place. And then they got bought out. That defense contractor company got bought out, and they were pretty much out of business. And I had to figure out sort of the next step. And I knew. And
this is not a position you haven't been in before. Coming over here, you've already been in it. It's nothing new to you. That mindset, that feeling, nothing new to you. You may at that moment you didn't know, but you already knew because you had that experience from being in that position. If that makes sense.
No, yeah, absolutely. Shifting gears and picking up and moving, literally at that point, because at that point I knew I wanted to go to grad school. I didn't know what grad school or how to do it, but. My sister was living in Boston at the time, and she said, "Why don't you just come up? My sisters are going to be in Boston."
Boston's beautiful. I was there 3 weeks ago. It is a beautiful city. I went down to Cape Cod. Gorgeous down there. I like Boston. Nice, clean city.
Boston's a beautiful city.
I went to the F1 racing simulator in Boston.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
If you haven't been there, you got to go to it.
I got to go.
Oh my! It is fun and it's intense. Like it's very legit. I haven't sat in one of those cars, but it feels like very legit to those cars. Yeah, you got to check it out next time.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, but that whole area is beautiful.
It is.
I love Boston.
It is. Yeah. So I moved to Boston. ended up finding a job, getting into grad school. Also, I got my MBA from there, and just got into sort of finance and investments. Continued doing that. I didn't open up another company until, like I said, until I opened Boston Venture Partners. That was a structured finance shop that we ran with my partners there.
And that was after Morgan Stanley?
That was after Morgan Stanley.
What did you do at Morgan Stanley? What sparked your interest to land that job?
Equity trading, debt structuring, that kind of stuff. Bond and equity trading.
So at that time, you really had a big interest in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a big interest in finance and investments, and that was definitely a big. I knew that I had a big affinity to that. Even back then. So. And
it's fun. It will keep you on your toes.
It is.
You never know what's going to happen.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, that's really where I learned to grind, to be honest with you.
Let's talk about that, because I remember talking to you, and back then when you're cold calling and things like that, you had a Rolodex.
I did.
And it's like the movie Wolf of Wall Street. But I want you to tell everyone the story about the mailman.
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget you were telling me this. I want you to tell the story about the mailman, because that right there. And if you guys don't know John, get to know him. Follow him on social media. You are genuine. You have a huge heart, and that's one reason why I love you. And that right there, speaks about that. It speaks about your character and who you are as a person. But talk to us about the grind, the old school Wolf of Wall Street calling, and then lead that up to the story about the mailman. It's very interesting.
The Wolf of Wall Street calling was reality. That was what everybody who worked for an equity shop back then,
in the 90s and early 20s
and 2000s, that were doing. I mean, it was before a lot of the do not call lists were proliferated and all that kind of stuff.
And you were just cranking out those phones.
Just cranking out phone calls.
Getting cussed out, yelled at, all that.
I mean, I averaged 200 cold calls a day. So
unbelievable.
That's average. Sometimes I hit 300.
Sometimes I hit 100 because you're talking longer.
Yeah, but anywhere between 200 to 300 cold calls a day, and that's
what was that? What was that day look? What time did you wake up? What did you do? Like, walk us through that type of day.
Well, I wake up around 5:30. Got into the office around 6:45 or so in the morning. I wanted to always beat my boss.
I love that.
And
always that competitive streak.
I rarely beat him. He was always there, but I beat him a few times.
There you go.
In the office. You get in strategically early in the morning because you have a window of time in the morning you can call businesses as opposed to people. You can't call people before 9:00 a.m., but you can call businesses before 9. So it was dedicated to business calling. We'd call businesses from 7 to 9, and then we'd call people after that, and grind it until about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. I'd get out. There was a gym in the building that I worked in.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, work out, come back to work around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Crank out another hour or two worth of work until about 8 o'clock, and then go home.
And then do it all over.
Do it all over again.
Unbelievable.
Next day, again and again and again. So,
unbelievable. And that's the old school ways of, really cranking it out and cold calling. And even today, you have to cold call. You have to be a master on the phone. You have to understand how to place words, how to move sentences around, and be very strategic on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're raising capital like you and I are. Always raising capital. 7 days a week, 24/7. We are always raising capital. Yeah. And you have to be strategic on the phone. If you're not, you're just not going to have a business, and you're definitely not going to make it in the finance industry if you can't raise capital, if you can't be on the phones.
No,
I've been cussed out before. I even have this email. Some guy told me go die. I have the email. Some guy was like, "You go die," and I'm like, "Well, I hope you have a better day."
I heard it all, man. I heard it all. I mean, I was cold calling after 9/11. To give you an idea. So,
and talk to us about that, because I'm sure that was like dead silence in the office. Like, I mean, it was very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I was working at Morgan during 9/11, and I missed New York by a week. I was in the tower a week before.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A week before, because that was my class. It just happened to be that my class kind of switched around, and I ended up going a week earlier to be in the tower.
Oh my goodness.
And then I came back, and then a week later, 9/11 happened.
Holy cow.
At the time we stopped like all activities for I don't know, I think a couple of weeks or something like that. And then it, like anything else,
You
business
got to keep going.
business goes back to normal. So
Yeah.
like, you know, you got to get back to business at some point. You got to pick up the phone and call and
Most definitely.
and all that. And, you know, obviously people are not kind to that at that point. You know,
Especially
why
the New
calling,
Yorkers.
you know, you're bloodthirsty, you're a vampire, I was called
Yeah.
all kinds of names.
Your
man.
disgrace, you know, all of that.
But also I gotta, you know, there were a lot of really nice people. Like, you know, we really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
You know, getting back to work. Like, thank you for you know,
Reaching out,
reaching
all that.
out, and all that kind of stuff.
You
So
need those calls of the people to tell you you're a piece of shit. Don't call me. You know, can't believe you're wasting my time, because that makes your skin thicker. And you have to have that, especially when you are in sales. Sales is the number one. I love sales. You have to understand sales. You have to understand the mind and how people operate over the phone. And you have to have thick skin. Yeah. If you make this stuff become personal, you won't last, and you're going to hit a ceiling.
There's no reason for it to become personal, because, listen, no is a statement. It's not a personal affront to you. No is a statement. That's all it is. It's just a word.
I would rather you tell me no, because I know there's going to be a yes somewhere, and I'd rather get you out of the way. Okay, no, great. I'll keep you on our emailing list. Get you out of the way, on to the next.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
I would rather you tell me no than you ghost me and not tell me at all, and me keep following up with you saying no.
Absolutely.
We just had an investor. He went on a 2-week vacation, did not tell us whatsoever. So I don't know. So I'm following up. Had a call with him this morning saying, yes, you know, we still love everything. We're going to go ahead and invest. And it's like, where the hell you been for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
You know, what have you been doing for the past 2 weeks?
Yeah.
You know, and so when it comes to that, you have to have that thick skin to follow up. But I would rather you tell me no, so I can say, okay, great, I'll put you on our emailing list, on to the next.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And no, it just means, like, at this stage in time, it just doesn't make sense. The synergies are not there.
Correct.
So it means put it away, go back to them a few months later, a couple months later, a couple weeks
A
later,
year,
whatever it is, you know, whatever it is. But
Keep sending them educational stuff.
But it's so many people take no as some kind of a personal affront.
They do.
It's not. It's
Oh my
just
God.
not. It's just a statement in time. That's all it is. It's just a statement in time.
Yep.
So
Nope, you're spot on.
take it, move on, you know, whatever. Move on to the next one.
Most definitely.
But yeah, that's what we did. And then, like I said, we left. We opened up Boston Venture Partners. That was the name of the firm at the
Before
time.
we get to Boston Venture Partners, let's talk about the mailman story.
The mailman. That's right.
Yes, I'm
The
not going to
mailman.
forget that one.
You're not going to forget.
Let's
that
talk
one.
about that.
Yeah. So yeah, we have leads sometimes that come into us that people either call in or whatever.
Yeah. And then you guys also buy lists.
And then we buy
things like
lists
that.
and all that kind of stuff. But there was, I don't know where I was at the time. I was at night. It was evening, and that's how I remember it really clear, because I after I came back from the gym, like I told you, I come back,
Go straight there.
go straight to
Yep,
work,
cranking out the phones.
cranking out another couple hours worth of work, and there was a call that came in that nobody wanted to take, and I took it, and it was a guy that worked for. You know, he was a postal worker.
No one wanted to take it, and you're like, "Hey, I'll take it." And he probably said, "Hey, I work for the post office," or they probably started talking to him a little bit to understand, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't want this guy."
Yeah, there was another guy that actually started talking to him, but he didn't really want to continue, so he just gave it to me, and
I was like,
okay,
"Hey, John, take it."
Well, like fine, whatever, I'll take it. Like I don't care. I love talking to people. I love talking to everybody.
You treat everyone the same.
I do.
And that's another reason why I love you is you treat everyone the same, no matter where your background is, color, whatever. Everyone is the same in your eyes.
It should be,
and that's
way.
how
That's how it should be. Why, you know?
That is how it
because
should
everybody
be.
has their own unique story. Everybody has their
100%.
own unique value. Like, who am I to diminish somebody who's just happened by life somehow got them to the streets? That doesn't mean that they don't have an interesting story. In fact, they probably have a very interesting story.
Oh, very much so.
You know?
Very much so.
But yeah, I took the call. You know, postal worker, just sort of, you know, even I took all the information, all that kind of stuff. Went to my boss, you know, to try to do an assessment and all that kind of stuff. He's like, he's like, I don't know if you want to necessarily spend a lot of time, but yeah, you know, sure. Like, you know, if you want to meet him, that's fine. If you want to continue down that road, but.
No.
You know, a couple of my guys were like haggling me about it.
Oh,
like,
this
you
is
know,
ridiculous. Come on,
like,
waste your
why are you
time.
gonna go out there and waste your time with somebody like that? Like, he probably doesn't have, you know, whatever.
Yeah, $1
You
to
know,
his name.
a couple $100,000. You know, he's gonna give you like his U.S. Postal Service pension and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it could be sizable. Like, hey, man, beggars can't be choosers.
Yep, you never judge a book by its cover.
Never ever judge him. And I actually liked the guy. Like, I just happened to love the guy. Like, he just sounded really genuine and great and good. And I love good and genuine people.
Yep.
You know. They went out to meet him, pulled up to his house. It was a small bungalow in North Shore of Boston. And, sat in, did some, the whole sort of getting to know each other, and, I think I had a tea or something, it's very small, modest house.
Yeah.
And then he brought up his portfolio, and his portfolio ended up being close to $10 million.
What went through, and I've already asked this to you when you told me the story, but for everyone to listen, what went through your mind when he pulled out that portfolio and it was that large? You were thinking,
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was like,
are these numbers right? Are you missing a zero?
Yeah, I was like, my first question was like, how in the actual F did you get to $10 million on a U.S. Postal Service salary? But,
yeah. It sounds like a politician. You make 150,000, but you're worth 200 million.
I know. Well, come to find out, he's a very frugal guy. He saved everything, so he did have actually his pension and savings from his job. He worked in the Postal Service for like 30 years, 40 years, and he saved up like $3 million from that. $2 or $3 million from just working there.
Unbelievable.
But then he had like a lawsuit from one of his, I guess his parent, I think his dad or his mom had a lawsuit, an asbestos lawsuit, and he won it.
Wow.
And his mom left it to him, and that was where the majority of the $10 million was from.
Unbelievable.
10 or 12 million or something like that. And I walked into the office
with a smile on your face,
very big smile on my face,
walking like Conor McGregor.
Yeah. And I think I got crap from the guy who took the call initially and gave it to me for years after that.
I'm sure he did.
I was like, you snaked that one. I was like, dude, I didn't snake anything from you.
You gave it to me.
You gave it to me. You just didn't want to talk to the guy.
He probably never let you live that
down. But yeah, that just shows you. I mean, don't ever judge a book by its cover. Don't ever judge people. There's no reason to judge anybody, because we all have our crap. We all have our shit. We all have our demons. We're all faulty, human beings. So, the difference between one human being and the other is just circumstances, and that's it.
You're spot on.
Circumstances and opportunities, and some people have the right circumstances and the right opportunities, and others don't.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just how it is.
And again, you have to play the cards that you're dealt.
You do.
You absolutely at the end of the day, whatever cards you're dealt, you're gonna have to learn how to play them and get good at it.
Yeah,
like it's the name of the game these days. Yeah. And thankfully, we have social media at our fingertips. Where I know when I grew up, I did not. I know when you grew up, you definitely didn't have an iPhone right there that had the internet or YouTube where you could do everything, learn everything right there from your fingertips within seconds these days. And especially ChatGPT.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I would probably have not dropped out of college. I probably would have graduated college if I had ChatGPT. Yeah, I would have, because I would have thrown everything in ChatGPT to get my degree.
I know.
And I would have stayed through college.
No, the tools are unbelievable right now.
It's crazy
that are out there and available.
It's wild. And you have a son, 16, really going on 30. I feel like every time we talk about him, he's skyrocketing. He's taller than you, right? So he's definitely taller than me. I mean, he's just skyrocketed at 16. But with his generation, I mean, what he's able to do with this technology is unbelievable. Yeah. And he's preparing, to go to college in a couple years, or if that's what he wants to do. And all this technology with ChatGPT and all this other AI is right here at his fingertips.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I see about the people of his generation, the young guys in his generation, and ladies in his generation, is that there's a lot more reliance on
technology,
these tools, on these technology tools, and that's great. Yeah. You can leverage them in a positive way, but at the same time, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
In a positive way, relying on them is different, and there's a sense of displaced laziness, I guess.
There is
that is among a lot of this generation. That is. I'm sure it existed in my generation as well, but I don't know. It was just never part of me.
And he's not going to be that way because you're an alpha and you're training him to be an alpha. So he's not going to be that way. And I said this to someone the other day, is that I'm kind of glad that there's a bunch of sheep that are running around in this society, because my son's going to be an alpha, your son's going to be an alpha, and they're just going to go through and tear up all these sheep. Because they're in their way, essentially, and that's life.
Yeah, well, I mean, he better start getting some grit underneath him if he wants to be an alpha. So it's I think that's what's missing from a lot of people.
Is that grit?
Is that grit?
100%.
There's a sense of grit and fortitude, as good a job as you try to sometimes inculcate that into young people, and it's tricky. It's tricky. It really is. It's
Most
tricky. It's tricky very much for someone like me, who really had nothing the same as nothing like he did. And I had a conversation with him recently, I think.
And these are tough conversations too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, listen, dude, you have no idea how good your life is at 16.
They don't realize it
Compared to mine. I mean, by the time I was 16, I have been through some horrific crap.
Oh, I believe it.
100%. Living through a war, living through a migration.
I mean, even with my life compared to yours, I was born in America, which that's a huge different step than where you were born.
Yeah.
And he was proudly born in America with a wonderful father, a wonderful mother, very successful, both sides. They don't realize it until they hit rock bottom. And sometimes it's hard because as parents, you have to get them to them. You don't want to see them fail, but you want them to learn a lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that is a hard balance, I would say.
Yeah.
There's no book on how to parent like that.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, you hope the lesson doesn't come with too much collateral damage, but sometimes it does. And,
I know.
And you just got to live with it, and you just got to go on, and that's it. We all have these lessons. We all have lessons that we've learned in life that came with, unfortunately, heavy collateral damage.
I've one thing I've done with my son, who's 4.5 going on 20, is that I let him know what the collateral damage is, but I let him still do it. So before he do, I say, hey, you can do it, but just to let you know, here are the potential consequences if you do those actions.
Yeah.
So I want him to start thinking where when he's not with me, he would say, well, if I do this, what are my potential consequences? What are my potential pros and cons? And I think you got to get them to start thinking that way so they can really understand. Because like you said, sometimes they'll go do something even at that age and they're not thinking about anything. And then they realize after they did a certain action, oh shit, I fucked up. Like, here are the consequences. I didn't really think about this.
Yeah. But that's fine. That's life. That's what life is about. That's what life is about.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Just a quick reminder to make sure you never miss an episode. Stay connected with us by following us on social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok at Chris_Salerno_. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube to catch the video versions of our episode. You'll get exclusive content, behind-the-scenes footage, and much more. Head over to YouTube, Chris_Salerno now, and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned because we've got more great content coming right after this. Going back a little more, you completed JP Morgan there. You then decided to open up your own shop. And talk to us about opening up your own shop with those business partners. What lessons you learned and some pros and cons that you still use today?
The biggest lesson is just be daring. Be daring and just take a chance. Take a chance on yourself.
You gotta take a risk.
Take a risk on yourself first and foremost, and trust in yourself that you'll be able to get something done. I mean, when we first opened up our shop and we were doing some of the early negotiations and some of the early deals, I was sitting in some offices in New York City and thinking, what am I doing here? I don't belong here, but I did belong there because why not? Why not me?
Yeah, agreed.
So, but it's that imposter syndrome that always kind of, is in a lot of people's heads. It's like, God, what am I doing here? Like these people,
pinch me.
These people have no idea that I don't know much about commercial real estate, but here they are entrusting me with their deal, with this $150 million deal or whatever it was at the time.
You got to act like you know it, and I think that's where, and I've said this multiple times when people ask like, what's the number one advice you would give, and I always say this: it was never give up. However, my number one advice now is learn how to speak.
Yeah.
Learning how to speak and formulate sentences and placing certain words in certain sentences will get you into those type of rooms. And it will get you those type of opportunities. Even though you may not know anything about it on the back end, if you know how to formulate a sentence at a very high level, you're going to be able to get in those rooms and do those type of deals.
I'm going to challenge you to go a step further. It's not just formulating the words, it's actually connections. It's human connections 100%. At the end of the day. It's
building the relationships.
Whether that's words or whether that's actions or whether it's saying the right things or knowing the right verbiage or whatever. It is connections. At the end of the day, it's how you can connect with people.
And being genuine.
That makes a difference. Yeah. And being genuine, obviously.
Most definitely.
Being genuine is 100%. That's number one. But 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 the connection to people, and obviously, yes, the way that you speak matters, the verbiage that you use, the words that you sometimes use, and then just finding ways to connect. And I think, even from that earlier on, the cold calling days or whatever, I think I've learned really quickly how to find ways to connect with people, because the biggest thing that you can do to break the barrier between you and somebody you don't know
is find that mutual ground.
It's them. It's finding something that interests them.
Oh,
it's finding something.
You like mountain biking? I do as well. What type of bike you have?
It's not even about connecting at the same level necessarily. You don't have to necessarily do the same thing they're doing, but at least identify that and remember it. Maybe you don't use it that time, but maybe remember it for next time. It's like, hey, how's your daughter doing? Like, I remember you told me.
That's huge.
That's gigantic. That's
ginormous.
Gigantic. Yep. Or how, like, I saw that you have a dog. Like, how was your dog? Like, so things like that matter a lot. In the beginning, they may feel like almost superficial to you, but as long as you're saying it with sincerity,
it means
always
a lot.
do. It means a lot.
See, back then you had your little note cards you had to take notes on. These days we have CRMs, where everyone can take notes on. And I second that. I think that's super important. We do that as a company. Is everyone is in our CRM and we take notes on them. If I'm on a phone with someone and they just said they're going on vacation next week, well, my next call is, how was vacation?
Yeah.
Did you guys enjoy it? Did the kids enjoy it? That right there shows that you're genuine, you're caring, because people want to be listened.
100%. 100%.
They want someone to speak with.
Absolutely.
And if you can sit there and just listen, you're halfway there.
Absolutely. But yeah, going back to your questions, I mean, lots of lessons learned, lots of growth, lots of learning we've done. The biggest lesson, obviously, is we got hit with this thing called 2008 financial crisis.
What is that? Huh?
So, back then, and God, I feel old these days in the circles I run in, because every time I talk about living through and having a company that went through the 2008 financial crisis, I feel like I'm ancient, because not a lot of people have experienced that going through. This recession, the recessionary time that we had back then. It was tough. I mean, we lost our business and we had to pretty much close shop. And by 2009, 2010, we just didn't have enough to sustain. So we all had to pretty much close shop, lick our wounds, and figure out what the next thing is.
Unbelievable.
And for me, it just happens that next thing came a few years later with my brother. My brother had a syndication platform here in the Carolinas. Yeah.
You guys grew that big time too.
We did. We wanted to join forces with me and really kind of blow out that syndication platform, make it more institutionally driven.
And at the peak, how many units did you guys have? You guys had a lot.
We had. I mean, at the peak, we probably had close to 5,000 units, 4,800 units, something like that. But we transacted over 6,000 during the whole time.
Yeah. And what was that decision? Because you guys also had a property management company. You did full service, everything in house. What was that decision? Did you guys early on say, "Hey, we're going to do everything in house," or if not, then what was that decision that you said, "Okay, we're going to go ahead and take it in-house"?
I mean, there's an inflection point with every company that it makes sense to take something in house, doesn't take something in house, and to my brother's credit, he saw that inflection point earlier on and took a chance and created his own property management company. So we were vertically integrated with the company that he had. That was the property. It's still existing. Actually, it's still his girls run it right now with him. But yeah, I mean that we were vertically integrated during that whole time. There's pros and cons to that. To be honest with you, I learned a lot of lessons about vertical integration as well, about having your own management company. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It just depends. But did that until about 2020, which is when we decided to kind of sunset a good portion of that portfolio. My brother wanted to kind of take some chips off the table and kind of do his thing for a while and not really kind of take it easy, pull back on the throttle and as he should. He's much older than I am, and he wants to enjoy life a little bit more. And
you weren't. You were like, no, I'm ready to go.
I still got teenagers.
You're a rocket ship. You're I'm still ready to go.
We're just revving the engine.
I love it.
We're just revving the engine. So.
Oh yeah.
So 2020, I launched Big 15 Capital, and it's been an interesting time since then. Late 2020. I mean, that's I mean, at the end of 2020, 2021, when we kind of started sharing the same
office building.
And yeah, it's been a hell of a ride for the past
It
few
has.
years.
It has. How has, the recent inflation spikes, things like that? Talk to us about the market that, because you deal with a lot of institutional, lot of family offices, ultra high net worth, sophisticated investors. How has this recent spike of 2022, 2023 interest rates really impact, everything that you're seeing in the market?
It's impacted a lot of the institutional money big time in the way that they've definitely pulled back on the throttle.
Yeah.
They're slowly stepping back in now, looking at the market, but very, very strategically, very carefully.
Yeah.
The calculus is certainly a lot more scrutinized these days than it was before. Location is a lot more scrutinized. Growth, sponsor, teams, experience. That all of it is sort of holistically matter. These days, where I feel like in 2021, 2022,
they didn't care. Anyone can sign on the loan.
It was the Wild West.
Oh my God, yeah. Everyone and their mom was a syndicator, and then anyone can sign on the loan. They didn't care.
I mean, you go and take a coaching class for a couple of weeks, and
you're an expert.
Oh, you're an expert, and you're a syndicator, and you go out and raise money. And stuff.
Oh, I know.
It's just nuts to me.
I think definitely times have changed, and I think we need these type of market corrections because it makes everything stronger. I mean, look at 08 and 09 made the banks, the regulations very strong.
Yeah.
You and your mom could not get a loan after that. They were very tight. And if you're a business owner like, myself and yourself, it's very difficult to get loans unless we're paying ourselves. If we're not paying ourselves a salary, we can't get a loan.
Oh yeah,
it's super difficult.
The biggest joke I have is like, if somebody has a better chance of getting approved for a home mortgage who works at Best Buy than me.
Oh, 100%.
Because they can show a consistent W-2.
100%. Yeah. But, you are spot on there, and I think we need these type of corrections to strengthen things and to really set who's playing ball and who's not. If you're sitting on the sidelines, or if you got to get off and get off the field and as a whole, I think you're definitely seeing that, and these corrections really show that, and it's going to be a lot stronger going into next year. I mean, word on the street is, I saw Powell just made a statement that we don't necessarily need to get to 2% to lower interest rates now. Yeah. Because if we wait till then it's actually going to drop below 2%. So, what does that mean? I think he's kind of hinting we're going to see a decrease this year, at least one time, I think. I thought it was going to be Q1 of next year, really, until we saw everything. But I do believe politics are involved, and I think he's going to lower it right before the election.
Politics are always involved. Election cycles have always historically been the time when the federal government wants the government to look good.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah. So I remember we were raising on a deal right when Biden and Trump were running for president. Yeah, and it's very difficult as well.
Yeah,
a lot of things were fluctuating. Market was going wild, and so I definitely think we're going to see a 1/4 point drop right before the election in November.
Yeah,
I definitely think you're going to see that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I've always believed that, and I'll continue to agree with you that we are going to see some kind of a drop. It might be, like I said, 25 bips.
Yep.
But there will be a drop, I think, before the end of the year.
Yeah, most definitely, and I think definitely before the end of the election or before the beginning of the election, because of how wild everything's transparent. This year of 2023 with interest rate increases, what's going on with the presidential election, I think that's definitely going to fluctuate things. And then, once rates start to drop, that's normally when cap rates start to follow, and people are going to start to sell, and you're going to have buyers go out and start buying. And who knows? Is that the right time to start buying? And I think the big issue is that you had basically house flippers get into the multifamily space, and they think, oh, I'm just doing this at a bigger scale. I'm going to buy an apartment building and sell it in 2 years, and I'm going to flip it. Yeah. Well, they are not realizing the fundamentals of the game Monopoly.
That's true.
It takes time.
Oh, of course.
Real estate is generational built. It's not, hey, I'm going to flip it. Don't get me wrong. Yes, you can do your house flippers. You can make money flipping houses or even as a wholesaler. However, large multifamily real estate is really meant to be held for a while.
Of course.
It's not meant to buy, sell in 2 years.
Of course.
And I think this cycle has really opened the eyes to a lot of investors. We have one deal that we're going to be refinancing, and we thought we were going to hold it for 4 years and sell in 4 years, but that's not the case. We're going to have to hold for probably another 4 more years.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have to refinance and put different debt on it. And some investors are like, well, Why? And it's like, well, look, like it's because of the market, and here are some numbers.
Yeah,
and
we
things
have
like
both.
That, but
we have
you
deals
know,
that have gone a lot longer than anticipated. We have deals that we're gonna sell next year that are a lot shorter than anticipated,
yeah.
just because we think it's the right time. So
Most
it
definitely.
just depends. You just got to know how to bob and weave and
100%.
make your way through this market. It's and people think about commercial real estate, lump it all into one action, meaning that, hey, if you're gonna move, are you going to find the right deal in commercial real estate? Or you think this is the right time? Do you think this is the right deal? Do you think this is the right opportunity? There's always going to be the right opportunity and the right deal. You just have to look for them. That's all it is.
That's right.
It's just, this whole thing, I'm sure it's been overused as time in the market as opposed to timing the market.
Yeah.
You got to put your time in the market and look at deals. And that's what we've done all along for the past couple of years, is just look in the market, look at deals. Now, we haven't transacted a lot, but we have transacted some deals.
Oh, yeah.
But the only way you're going to be able to find these gems is if you look in the market and still be able to kind of stick to your guns, stick to your underwriting, to your fundamentals that you're trying to do. And you'll find deals. You just got to be strategic about it. You got to be able to bob and weave, which is what we've really been doing through our fund. Is we became a lot more alpha driven than just sector driven. I mean, meaning that we didn't really want to be linear anymore in terms of looking at just multifamily.
Yeah.
We started looking at all kinds of other opportunities
Now
that
car
are in
washes.
commercial real estate. A car wash is one of them.
Yeah.
Multifamily, but maybe not necessarily just straight up equity. We're doing, we're looking at doing some pref deals.
Love that.
We're looking at a land entitlement deal. We're looking at an SFR portfolio. So you got to be able to maneuver.
I think so. You have to be able to diversify your portfolio and understand all different type of asset classes. We are now in the car wash sector, and between you and I've looked into some of the retail here in Charlotte. Looking up to scoop some of this retail because I know South End very well. You know South End very well. We all know that's the growth of the path of Charlotte, and buying up some retail buildings that in 5 to 10 years from now are going to be bought to buy build a high rise could be a great investment opportunity depending on, what the numbers look like right now. And so I think it definitely makes sense. I think the multifamily space, don't get us wrong, I'm sure you still love it. I love it as well. The fundamentals, everyone needs a place to sleep and put their head at night, is always there. There's still a huge housing shortage, but I think it's very important to diversify. And I think where inflation is currently right now, the price to rent is extremely high, and I don't think there is room to keep pushing at the moment.
At least
so.
not this year.
Certainly not at the moment.
This year, not next year, maybe. So you got to underwrite whatever you're doing for very, very conservative, austere underwriting.
Correct.
Meaning that you're going to have to pull back on your numbers. And if your numbers still work, then buy it.
Yeah,
buy it. If your
100%.
numbers still work, that's the thing. That's what I tell people all the time. Is like, is it time to buy? I'm like, depends on your numbers. Like, I don't know what your numbers are. If your numbers still work at this conservative underwriting, then buy it. Then go for it.
Oh, I've seen some deals, and they've sent. I've looked at them, and I'm like, you guys are only cash flowing like 2% year one. That's too risky for me. Like 2% year one, like anything can happen.
Oh, absolutely.
And now you are negative cash flow.
Well, those are even the good deals. Some of the
right?
deals I've seen are negative cash flow from day one, or they're negative cash flow.
I've seen that too.
We just don't get into those deals either.
I'm shocked. I'm like, you guys are really wanting to go negative cash flow in year one. I mean, more than likely, given the current market environment, that's going to be 2 years at minimum. Yeah. Negative cash flow, and then you just put your investors at risk. You put the deal at risk. Why?
You're just leaving yourself exposed. Any ameliorations in the marketplace is going to knock you out, or going to put you in trouble and put you in a hole that you just really don't know how to crawl out of.
And why do that? Why do that?
Why
just
do
to
that?
close a deal?
Yeah.
No, you should switch asset classes. You should diversify. That's what we did. We saw this at the very beginning, and we said, okay, car wash sector is where we're at. We're staying in the car wash sector because there's a lot of room to grow.
That's why we're adding all these sectors for us, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to be good denizens of our investors' money
100%.
and make sure that we're delivering returns. That's what they care. That's what they're investing with us.
Correct.
They're not investing with us so we can just leave our money sitting in the bank and give them returns from the bank. Yeah, the returns from the bank are great, but that's not why they're investing with us.
No, they want
they're
higher
investing
returns.
with us because they want higher returns. They want us to
tax benefits.
Benefits. They want us to knock the ball out.
Keep
of the
the
park.
money, safe.
Keep the money flowing and into other deals. So that's what we're doing. We're just, as long as we kind of find that happy medium of there's enough safety, control, experience, and we know what's going to look like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and we see an exit that's going to be favorable to us, then we'll pull the trigger.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
That's what it is.
And I think that's what makes a very intelligent leader like yourself is understanding the market cycles from what you're seeing, the data, where things are going, people are buying, and what your firsthand pulse is on, and then you making the decision to say, okay, we are going to create a fund that's going to buy different type, place capital in different type of asset classes. We're going to diversify this because that's the best thing to do right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
I love that. You're definitely spot on. Talk to us about, your health. You are operating at a very high level. You are an alpha father to a wonderful son. How are you staying and maintaining your health so you can keep on pushing and making sure that you're there for him too?
I probably have done as good of a job on my health this year as I could have. I definitely have pulled back a lot on some self-care stuff, especially exercise. I need to get back into it, and I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I recently integrated yoga into my
I will
system.
tell you. So I work out at Lifetime, right down the street from where we live. I did hot yoga last Tuesday. Holy cow. These women in there are 40, 50 years old, and I look like a chump. I'm sitting there sweating on the ground, trying to gasp for air, and you got these women that are twice my age just doing these yoga poses. I'm like, holy, and I walked out, I'm still a little sore. Like, I mean, it's a good workout.
It is. It's a very good
enjoy
workout.
it.
It's a very good workout.
I think everyone should do it.
I think it's great. I think it's great. Yeah. So I started doing that. I'm trying to get back into other stuff, mountain biking and running and a couple of other things.
You were big in mountain biking.
Yeah, I am. I love mountain biking.
You love it.
It's awesome. It's
I
my
give it
one
to
way
you.
to kind of connect with nature
And just like
and
zone
just
out of work and all
everything
that.
else. It's a same thing with trail hiking and trail running and,
for
and all
sure.
that kind of stuff.
And we live in a beautiful city where we're an hour away from that, know. And you really, believe it or not, we're 10 minutes away. There's a lot of places here within Charlotte that people don't know of. That's a nature preserve.
There's a ton
where you can hike, bike, ride horses, all that.
Yeah, you don't have to go that far to go out into nature. And I'm a huge believer in nature. I'm a huge
100%.
believer in using the nature's sort of energy and force into, I'm not talking about like crystals or anything like that.
Correct. Well, you don't do that.
but no, realistically, when you are exposing yourself to a high dosage of being out there in a forest setting or a mountain setting or nature, you are actually physically inhaling a lot more.
Oh, you are
nutrient into your system.
I'm a big component of grounding. Where your shoes are off and you're grounding with the earth. I'm a big component of that. I love that, and just really feeling the energy, because the energy as a core of the earth has a very strong energy. Yeah. And I'm a firm component of just going out in nature and relaxing.
Yeah, 100%. So, I'm just trying to embrace more of that, and I'm trying to kind of double down and leverage sort of what we know in business and our relationships and do something that can get me into that on a more regular basis.
Love that.
And we're launching actually a mastermind built based on that.
Let's hear about it. You have done great things. I know there's a handful of people that I know that you've coached. You're a wealth of knowledge. You really put your time, energy, and that's really who you are in your character, which I love, into these individuals. What's this mastermind that you have going on?
So we wanted to. It's something I've been thinking about for a couple of years. I use the word mastermind loosely because that's the only way that a lot of people know what these things are about. It's really I like to think of it as a high level executive network. That's really what it is, as opposed to a mastermind.
Love that.
Because sometimes people, when they think of a mastermind, they think they're going to be coached or they're going to be, and it's not always that necessarily.
No, you're right.
We're launching a new mastermind. We're hoping that it's going to hit the market in the next few weeks. This is actually the first time I'm actually talking about it.
There we go.
In public, yeah.
So by the time this goes live, it will be live.
It will be live. Hopefully, it's called Peak Titans.
Ooh, okay.
Peak Titans is going to be a mastermind that has that pushes the boundaries for work, for networking, for mindset, for motivation, for therapeutic sort of strategic growth.
No.
And obviously deal sharing and all these other things that come in some of the usual
all different type of
mastermind,
business and things like that.
Business ideas, opportunities exchange, capital raising, all that kind of stuff. That's all going to be inculcated in it. But the biggest aspect of it is going to be, a cohort of like-minded, growth-oriented high-level executives.
It's super important to surround yourself with those individuals.
Absolutely.
Because and then you and I, when we had the office near each other, we would go and the time that we had free, we would talk about personal life, you and I. And it's super important because you and I have gone through something very similar, throughout our personal side of our life. And individuals, you don't realize it until you sit down and have conversations like we would have, about, hey, I'm going through this. And you're like, oh, I've gone through that too. This is what I have done. And then you realize, well, damn, I am human. He's gone through that. I've gone through that, and it's good to share that.
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer of getting yourself into those type of groups that you are creating, like Peak 15 Titans, right?
Or Peak Titans.
Peak Titans.
Just Peak Titans.
I'm getting it confused with Peak 15, which we'll touch on here in a second. But Peak Titans, it's super important to be in groups like that where you can share those type of personal experiences and then also business ideas and all that too.
It is. I mean, it's not going to be for everybody. I mean, it is going to be a selective process for admitting
as it should
be. As it should be.
100%.
It's not for everybody. You have to be able to share ideas. You have to be able to take ideas. You have to be able to be in a more of a sort of a dismantling sort of personal pushing. You have to push yourself personally.
Most definitely.
And there will be all the other business aspects of it, but it's not just commercial real estate. That I'll say that also. It's not just for commercial real estate folks. It's for folks in venture capital, private equity, commercial real estate, law, financial services.
I love that.
So all of those sort of ancillary businesses around the financial industry world or finance world. Yeah. And there's a big aspect of adventure in it. Every quarter, we will have meetings. We're not going to have one of those
boardroom
meetings. We're not going to have like a meeting at some hotel where you're going to come in and have breakout sessions. Those are great. There's nothing wrong with that, but Correct. That's not what we're having.
This is going to be more outdoors.
This is going to be more outdoors.
Adventurous.
There will be an indoor component. Every quarter, we're going to host our meetups, or we're going to call them retreats in different areas of the country.
Oh, love that.
So every 3 months, you're going to get a different location for one of our retreats, and our retreats are going to comprise of anywhere between half a day to 3/4 of a day of actual meeting, networking, fireside chat, panels, that kind of stuff. And then the rest of the time is going to be dedicated to adventure. Adventuring,
outdoors, mountain biking, hiking, skiing, all that.
The outdoors is definitely going to be the predominant.
Oh, you love it. Oh, 100%.
So, it's going to be whatever the location happens to be, where one of our locations is going to be Lake Tahoe, for instance.
Love that.
And another one of our locations is going to be Salt Lake. Another one of our locations is, likely going to be somewhere in the mountains of North Carolina. So, so it's meant to inculcate an adventure component to it. As well as sort of the mindset and the business exchange and the networking.
Most definitely. And I love the name Peak Titans. Obviously, it comes from Peak 15 Capital. So some ideas from it. How'd you even come up with the name Peak 15? I love your logo, everything about it. How'd you even?
I appreciate that.
What was the thought process behind it?
Peak 15 is the name of Mount Everest before it was called Mount Everest. So prior to 1864, I believe, that's when it was named Mount Everest. 1864. Before that, people that did all the computational,
said it was Peak 15.
It's called Peak 15. They found this peak. It was the Brits, obviously. Yeah. Who else would do a lot of those computations?
I know, right?
that were occupying Nepal and that part of India at the time, and they called it Peak 15. So that was the name of Mount Everest before it was called Mount Everest.
I love it. I love it.
But we wanted to separate Peak Titans from Peak 15 enough to where.
It's different.
It's a different company altogether. Yeah. It's not the same company. It's not. I don't want people to think that what we do at Peak 15 is going to dictate Peak Titans. Because that's not going to be the case. And to me, there's no really. People see this world sometimes from a competitive standpoint, meaning if I'm in the same room with somebody who does the same thing as me, they're competition.
No,
and that's absolutely not. They should completely flip the script on that.
I want people to think that over in Saudi Arabia, and you can second this, those sheiks over there are making $1 billion a day printing money from oil. There is so much money in this world. And if you think you're going to be in one little tiny room in the whole world and get upset. And don't get me wrong, I'm highly competitive. I'll lose sleep. I won't sleep. I'll
Yeah, but
I'll
you
stay
know what I
awake
love about you?
36.
You compete against yourself.
Correct.
That's the difference.
100%.
That's the competition that people
Because-
always should be focused on.
You are spot on. That is who you need to compete against.
Yeah.
Is yourself.
That's right.
And don't get me wrong. I'm very competitive, hyper competitive. I will not sleep to win, but to have the small mindset of going in a room out of the whole world and thinking Joe Smo, who makes 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, and you're having a grudge against him, you're like, why?
Or is a threat to you, or
is a
somehow,
threat to your
something
business.
Like,
No.
whatever. It's not. That's not it at
Why?
all. It's not.
No.
But I go into every room thinking, what kind of relationships and strategic partnerships can I have in this room?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. What can I find interesting about a lot of the people
Not
in this
only
room?
you
What can
do
I
that-
learn from all these people?
Not only you do that, but what you also do is you also, and I don't know if you think of this as well, but you also say, how can I add benefit to other people's life?
100%.
What can I do to add, and to be beneficial to other people's lives?
100%.
I know that's your genuine character of who you are, and I know when you go into a room, that is a part of your mindset. Is John is adding value to these individuals, and you're learning something throughout that conversation.
Because if you always lead with giving first, you don't have to wait on somebody to give back.
Yeah.
Just give first, and at some point or another, it'll come back to you.
100%.
Don't worry about it. People sometimes just approach referrals that way or whatever. Like they're always hedging and waiting and let me have them do their first move first. If they send me anything, then I'll send them something.
Yeah.
Well, why are you doing that? Why? Who cares? Is it tit for tat? Are you keeping score? What is? Just don't worry about keeping scores. Just do the right thing that you feel is right for you, and then let the rest play out.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, you're spot on.
But yeah, so that's why
There'll be none of that in there.
No, there'll be none of that. There'll be none of that. That's part of the criteria of being Peak Titans. Is in Peak Titans, we are, we're hopefully running together.
You're stronger as a team.
Stronger as a team. Where the kind of the tribe can take care of itself to some extent and exchange and have ideas and share adventures.
Yeah.
And that's really the sort of the impetus behind creating Peak Titans. Is I wanted to create a community that is inclusive but also exclusive to the folks that have gotten to that point in their life. They either have achieved a high position, an executive position in their company, or they're an entrepreneur, or they're in the C-suite and they made it there, and they're looking for the next, not just challenge, but they're looking for something that's going to be beneficial to them from a personal growth standpoint, as well as benefit their business.
Oh my, and their family.
And their family.
Yeah,
and their
overall,
family.
benefit you overall, because it's going to benefit the business, the family, and you internally. But first, you need to work on yourself
100%.
to then benefit your family and benefit your business.
100%. Absolutely. Exactly. So yeah, that's what it's about, man.
I love it. I love it. Where do you see everything going with Peak 15? Rough waters that we've been chartering the past couple years with everything that's been happening. Where do you see next year in the future for Peak 15?
We're excited about the future, man. We're really psyched. I mean, this we have a couple more millions to go on this fund that we're currently still deploying into assets.
There you go.
We still have a few assets to buy in this fund, but then next year we're launching an LP JV fund.
Okay.
That's going to have a multidisciplinary approach into investing. Same alpha strategy as we have now. It's just going to be done in a different way.
Yeah.
So right now, when we come in from our fund, we also bring alongside of us one of our institutional partners, family offices, to kind of supplement that LP sort of JV stack. Next year, when we launch our next fund, that fund will end up being that portion of the stack.
Oh heck yeah!
That's going to be $100 million fund that we're launching next year, probably Q1 of next year.
Very nice.
And we'll be institutionally driven, institutional by nature to some extent, but our deployment will not be. Our deployment will be, the sponsors that are looking anywhere between, let's call it 3 million up until about, let's call it 10, 15 million per deal. Maybe 20 million per deal. That's going to be our sweet spot between, I'd say, 3, 4, and 15 million. That's
and the asset classes you guys are targeting on those?
Assets are going to be,
Across the board.
Across the board.
Love it.
We're going to look at industrial. We're going to look at obviously. There's going to be a multifamily component because the multifamily component in funds add the beta to it, so it reduces the beta, meaning the volatility of a fund.
Everyone needs a place to live.
So we, multifamily, no matter whether you hate it, love it, you think it's, going to go nowhere, go somewhere, go everywhere, wherever you think of it, it's here to stay
100%.
at the end of the day.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going
There's
anywhere,
still a shortage of it.
There's still a shortage of it. If you look in the grand scheme of things, there's always going to be a shortage of it. People are going to continue to want a place to live. People are not going to continue to want to buy. There's always going to be building.
And I was just talking to someone yesterday about this. Is I don't care how old you are. We are in a society where things get to us next day or same day shipping wherever we want around the world now in some cases.
Yeah.
And a lot of individuals, even older individuals, are renting. They don't want to own. The ones I know that are owning are building their own house that they want. And I even said this, when I am going to move into a home, it's going to be because I built it on some land with some Belgian Malinois, where you're not going, you're going to think twice about stepping foot on there if you're not welcomed, and it's going to be tucked away, with my privacy.
Yeah.
But I prefer to rent. I have, as we talked about, I like to keep my house 64 degrees. If my HVAC goes out, I call them up. Hey, I need a new one now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot, everyone else, from what I'm hearing, is everyone prefers to rent. It's easy, come and go. You have someone take care of everything else. You don't have the headache and the maintenance of owning your own home and things like that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are moving to that way, is renting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, somebody like you and I, we're not necessarily. A lot of people think of real estate as like an asset that they need to have in their life, and there are that's true.
Commercial
if that's
assets.
The only, well, it's true if that's the only real estate
Means.
asset or
Correct.
means of having an asset that grow for you.
Is a single family home.
If you were just a guy who's just got a regular W-2 job and you want to buy a home, I'm not stopping it for everybody.
No.
Go ahead and buy a home because that might be the only exposure to real estate you have in your
And will
portfolio.
it go up in value if you hold it for 20 years? 100%.
Absolutely,
It's going to
will.
go up.
It absolutely will. But people like you and I, we are in the business. We're in
Correct.
real estate.
We eat, sleep, and breathe it.
We already own a portfolio of commercial assets. So we don't necessarily feel that gravity pull of owning a home per se.
Yeah.
We
want to own commercial real estate. When it comes to owning a single family home that we're living in, we see it, or I see it too, is basically a negativity because I'm not earning cash flow. It's coming out of my pocket to live there. I'm not earning any positive profit off of that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But yeah, I mean that's the plan. So next year, a lot bigger things, a lot bigger deals, more deals. Like I said, the integration of an LPJV fund is going to be prescient for us next year.
There we go.
And obviously at that point, hopefully we're continuing to grow Peak Titans as a mastermind. So that's the fun part.
There we go. I'm excited to see what's in store for Peak 15, Peak Titans, and everything you have. Obviously, you and I will stay very close because we're good friends.
Of course.
But excited to have you on here in the near future as well to hear about all the progress and success that you guys have had since this release. So, John, thanks so much for joining and taking some time out of your day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, man.
Most definitely.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Chris Salerno Show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insight to help you along your journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions or topics that you would like to cover, feel free to reach out directly to me. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Chris_Salerno_. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay inspired.